Welcome to Panther Parade, the podcast where we're supposed to talk Panthers hockey, but sometimes we don't. Here are your hosts, Alex Lopez, Jake Langsam, and TJ Peterson.
To our great podcasters and our great fans, welcome to opening night of the 2022-2023 Panther Parade season. What's better than this? Good luck to all the podcasters, and let's have a great season. What did you guys think of that? That was so bizarre.
That was weird, man.
That was the weirdest thing I have ever
It was so uncomfortable.
I could understand if Gary Bettman did it. It would have been a little odd. It would have been a little look at me, Louie, if Gary Bettman did it, but it would have at least made sense. Some random referee? What were you thinking?
They needed to pre-write it also. That was clearly off the cuff. It was
I don't know. That could have been prepared.
If it was prepared, I would have prepared it better. I would have done some sort of monologue like Robin Williams in what was the name of the movie where he says "Carpe Diem."
Dead Poets Society.
Right. That it would have been like that if I had written it. In case anybody isn't aware of what we're referencing, before the opening game, at least in North America, this year's NHL regular season, the referee gave some sort of speech, which was pretty much what I just paraphrased. He said, "What's better than this? Good luck to our great players, great fans," and then he dropped the puck. It was, only about 30 seconds, but it was uncomfortable and kind of unintentionally funny. And it was a weird way to get off this regular season, get this regular season started. And we're here tomorrow. As we're recording today, as you're listening, is the first game of the Panthers regular season, and we're here to talk about it. Gentlemen, we'll be doing over-unders for every team in the league in this episode as well. We're not going to be spending very much time on most of the teams. We'll have some teams we'll focus in on other than the Panthers, but let's get started with, of course, our Florida Panthers. And this one has moved a little bit, but the number that I have in front of me right now is over under 105.5 points. Fellows, who would like to weigh in on that first?
I gotta go under.
I gotta go under as well.
No, I don't think by much.
3 unders.
This team is not repeating its President's Trophy. I don't even think this team is repeating its Atlantic Division Championship.
Agree.
And I don't think I will face much disagreement from either of my fellow podcasters nor any of the listeners. This team will take a step back this year.
The number that would really make it very difficult for me would be 101.5. That would be where I'd be like, wow, I don't know which way I'm going to go. But I feel like they're going to be in the low hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Panthers are a playoff team, as we're going to talk about them in the macro sense before we deep dive a little bit more. I think the Panthers are a playoff team, but they are 1 3-week injury to Aaron Ekblad and Gustav Forsling to being in real trouble for a long stretch of time. This is still one of the best forward groups in the NHL, but this defense group essentially has a number 1 defenseman, a top 4 defenseman in Gustav Forsling, and then number 6/7 guys the rest of the way. It's not good.
We have not yet covered the Josh Mahura waiver claim.
We did on the previous episode for a little bit.
Well, here, give us your thoughts. Because
I have not yet covered the Josh Mahura waiver claim.
You were on a jet plane.
I was on my way home from Los Angeles. Look, it's a pretty low risk grab. They're going to stick him on the third pair with Radko Gudas. He doesn't have a great sample of NHL results, but he also has a very small sample size of NHL results. He's been around a little bit, but again, not a ton of NHL games under his belt. And for what it's worth, noted top 4 defenseman Gustav Forsling also didn't have the best 5-on-5 results when his sample size was much smaller either. Could Mahura develop into a top 4 defenseman? Unlikely, but maybe. So we'll see what happens there.
Well, as we saw proven today, sample size doesn't matter anymore. 56 games is more than enough to make a long-term decision on a player. So it's Josh Mahura. Did I get the first name right?
Yeah, Josh Mahura.
Josh Mahura. Sorry, buddy, you're trash and you've got no shot of becoming a 4.6 AAV player over the next 7 years.
Oh, see, the angle I thought you were going there is that we should extend Mahura for 4 years.
Why
or
not
for 7
8?
years
He
at
wants
$30
to be
million.
a Panther.
Well, if Mahura had great analytics for 56 games, I would be saying it. But he had bad analytics for 56 games. So unfortunately, he does not get the extension yet.
Yeah, Samuelsson, by the way, who we're talking about, was Matthias Samuelsson is extended by
Of the Buffalo Sabres.
right, for 7 years.
We'll talk about them when we hit. We hit
his analytics were fairly solid. Like, he could be a good player. I just think that like the track record is not there to make that kind of bet yet.
I guess we're going to talk about it now then.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
we
and
can
I
move
mean,
on.
As our friend Anthony from Expected Buffalo, formerly of Die by the Blade, mentioned, at some point you've gotta make your long-term commitments. Like, the rebuild has to end eventually, and sometimes that means taking risky bets on your homegrown talent. The Samuelsson extension might be great for Buffalo. It might look like Mackenzie Weegar. It also might look like Florida Panther Mike Matheson before Pittsburgh made him good.
Since we're talking about it, here's the problem, though. This guy's shown no offensive ability.
Right.
None.
He doesn't even have a goal.
I don't think Weegar did for the first few years of his career either.
But Weegar was getting minimum extensions and minimum bridges. Weegar didn't get and it was a minor. His AAV for his last contract was 3.3. This is defenseman that they just gave 4+ AAV for 7 years, buying out 3 UFA years off of 56 games. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't even know what Buffalo's number is, but I'm just going to go under.
Let's finish our conversation about the Panthers first. But we all agree that they're going to go under 105.5. I personally have them finishing behind Toronto and Tampa. What about you guys?
I think 3 or 4 is probably the most likely landing spot, just because it's hard to stay at the top, especially in the best division in the NHL.
I have the Panthers finishing second.
Okay.
Still.
You have Tampa finishing 8th?
I do, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that. No, I've got Toronto winning the division. I've got Florida second.
I think Toronto...
I'm gonna withhold the remainder of my Atlantic Division standings predictions until we get there.
I think most people can guess who you have third.
If Toronto can get any kind of goaltending out of Matt Murray, they're going to win the division just because it's their turn.
Yes. Even if they can't, for the record. If Toronto gets league average goaltending from their tandem, I still think they win the division.
Which I think...
Well, that's what I was saying. If they can get decent goaltending as league average, like, the problem is Matt Murray's been anything but league average the last few years. Like,
if noted back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Matt Murray returns to noted back-to-back Stanley Cup champion form, then Toronto will be a threat.
Let's hold off on the Maple Leafs chatter, but yeah, in general, I think we all agree the Leafs are going to finish ahead of the Panthers. I think that the Lightning are eventually going to get, like, nightmares about that series against the Avalanche, and they're going to, come to the rink in November and December with a kind of angry energy that we haven't seen from them in past regular seasons. They usually wake up in the playoffs, but I think this year they're going to be angrier during the regular season than they usually are. So I think they're going to have a decent the Florida Panthers season. Yeah. No, I'm saying that's why they're going to finish second.
All right. So we have new forward lines. I mean, I think the first thing we've seen from Paul Maurice is that he is not sticking to anything that was done last year as, we're definitely going to continue this in terms of line. Well, I guess the only thing is for Hagee Barkov, that pairing he hasn't really touched. But
there's not much else you can keep the same given the turnover.
Yeah.
Yeah. But our first line, what looks to be our first line for tomorrow night, is going to be Barkov with Verhaeghe and Reinhart. Second line is looking like Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk, and Rudolph Balcers. Third line is Lou Sarainen, Lundell, and
Colin White.
Fourth line is Nick Cousins with Blomberg and Hornquist. Defensive pairings, you guys already know them. Ekblad, Forsling, It's
Stahl Montour.
Montour.
I think that's your third pairing, by the way. I think that we're
No,
going to see.
no way. No way.
I think it's happening.
No way. Brandon Montour is too good to be relegated to third pairing right now.
But that's
his
also kind
rise
of
as a Panther has been very good. He was fantastic in the preseason for whatever that's worth. I don't think that I don't think that Paul Maurice thinks that Mark Stahl is not good enough for second pairing minutes is the thing. I think he genuinely believes that Stahl Montour is our second best pairing. And then Mohura Gudis is your third. There's no way Mohura Gudis gets more minutes than Stahl Montour. There's just not.
Yeah, I mean, I think your second and third pairing is going to. I would assume your first pairing is going to get asked to eat a lot of minutes. I'm talking 25 plus.
Yeah, that's a
night.
25, 30-minute pairing right now.
And your second and third pairing is just going to be asked to basically split, 10, 15 minutes each. That's what you're going to get from your second and third pairing.
Yep.
Hell, if they had the cap space, I wouldn't be surprised if you see 7 defensemen a bunch more often.
Cap space.
Cap space. Who needs it?
Well, I mean, they could create the cap space but they would have to, send somebody down, basically. Yeah, that situation's just kind of messed up. But defensively, that's obviously the worry. And, personally, I think Forsling and Ekblad is not going to be together. I think it's going to be separated actually quickly because
that's
I think that even Paul Maurice is going to realize, and I say even Paul Maurice, not to say that like he's an idiot, but like I think that he is stubborn generally. And this is something that we've heard from Winnipeg fans. I think that he is going to realize.
From what fans?
Winnipeg? Isn't that what I said?
There you go.
What did I say?
You kind of put a lot of emphasis on that first syllable.
Winnipeg.
Or no, you put a lot of emphasis on the second syllable more so.
Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's kind of what you said. You kind of said Winnipeg.
Okay.
It just sounded funny.
Well, Jets fans have said that Paul Maurice is kind of a stubborn coach.
What do New Yorkers know about Paul Maurice?
I don't know, man. But I think even he is going to realize that he just does not have the depth on defense to trust the other 4 guys to play half the game. He's going to need one of those guys to be out there for 40 to 45 minutes a game. It's just the way it is. Like, I'm sorry, Mark Stahl at this point in his career, Radko Gudas at this point in his career, Brandon Montour, despite being a nice offensive player, none of those guys are going to be able to command the ice.
So then who switches with Forsling? Mark Stahl or Josh Mahura?
I'd like to see Josh Mahura with Ekblad for like a game or two to see if like he can hang and if Ekblad can carry him.
For the record, I would also like to see that, but I promise you that is not what Paul Maurice thinks.
Yeah.
I would bet you on the show, not money because I don't like gambling, that if we see Forsling and Ekblad split up, Mark Stahl is going to be next to Aaron Ekblad.
I don't think that's going to happen.
You are much lower on Mark Stahl than Paul Maurice.
That's not why I don't think it's going to happen. I think that Mark Stahl, he views him as like a steady defensive guy. He's going to put him out there because he knows he's going to shut down the other team, and he views Ekblad as a guy that can drive offense.
Which he won't.
You're talking about Mark Stahl, not
I am.
Ekblad. By the way, I don't think that Mark Stahl is totally terrible and washed, and like the best thing to do is blow him into the sun. I just don't think that he's particularly good. I think that if you play him as your 6th defenseman for about half the games, he's perfectly fine. But like we're looking down the barrel of 82 games of Mark Stahl, and that's one of the main reasons why I think the Panthers weren't going to be first in the division or challenging for the President's Trophy again.
I will give Mark Stahl some credit. This past season, he was positive impact on defense. He was negative impact on offense, enough so that he was a net negative on the ice.
Below average, but not below replacement is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, but like his hockey viz chart actually has him as being a positive influence in the defensive zone. So that's
that's why Paul Maurice isn't going to risk making Aaron Ekblad's offense just like plummet like that.
The reality is the odds of us at the end of the year saying, yeah, thank God we had Mark Stahl on this roster are very, very
They're
low.
about as high as us saying, thank God we had Ben Sherratt last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's this is what happens when you have no cap space.
We didn't even have enough cap space to sign Eric Stahl off his PTO.
Who's better than his brother, even though he's older.
I don't even know about that. I don't think Eric Stahl is great.
Historically, I agree, but right now I'm actually not sure.
I thought Eric Stahl was pretty good in the preseason.
Yeah. For what preseason's worth.
Okay, the preseason. Okay, Mark Stahl was meh in the preseason. Eric Stahl was pretty good.
Yes. Player who already has an NHL contract and was almost guaranteed a roster spot did not perform as well as player who was still fighting for a professional contract. That makes sense to me.
Eric Stahl was not fighting for a professional contract. He was deciding whether or not he had it in him to play one more season.
A penny for his thoughts right now, by the way. I'd love to know. Eric Stahl.
Yeah.
His equipment's still in the locker room. He knows the deal.
Well, I mean, what's his like visualization of getting to wear that equipment? You know, does he imagine that a long-term injured reserve placement for another player is just a game away? I don't know.
True. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think it's the first injury to a forward. Instead of it being a call from the AHL, it's going to be Eric Stahl signing.
Which is a shame because Heponiemi, I know I'm like going back and forth with how much preseason matters depending on how much it makes me look smarter. Heponiemi had a very good preseason.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's also a guy fighting for a spot.
I didn't want to be that guy, but when everybody was like, well, we lose Heponiemi on waivers, I was sitting here like, I don't care. Like, you know, Heponiemi was on the show. He seems like a nice guy. He definitely has some skill. There's definitely some potential there, but here's the reality. Like, he wasn't a special AHL player last year. If you talk about the top 50 forwards in the AHL last year, he wasn't one of them. Like, we're talking about a guy that really only scored on the power play. And in terms of even strength points per game was like dead average in terms of forwards in the league.
I think it's more of a situation where you just can't afford to lose any of your prospects because your prospect pool is so thin and you have 0 draft picks to really refill that prospect pool.
I guess, but I mean, he's not even really a prospect anymore because he's 24? You can get guys like that so easily. Like, they could have picked up Martin Kaut on waivers, and he's like maybe a little bit better than Heponiemi, I would say.
There's also Justin Sordiff, who was just reassigned to Charlotte today. He made it all the way through until the last day.
Well, that's because he was hurt.
He was hurt.
He couldn't get sent out.
He couldn't get into a preseason game because he was hurt. Hopefully that he gets right for the AHL season, because I really want to see what he can do in professional hockey.
Yeah.
It would be very good if he became a useful player for the Panthers in the next few years, because God knows they need him. Cap space, not getting better this season at least.
It sure will next season, though.
That's true.
By the way, David Krejci's back. He just scored a goal.
Wow. We'll get to the Bruins in a little bit, but we've talked about the defense. We talked about the forwards a bit. I just want to say I don't really love E2 as a winger.
Another assist for Pasta. My fantasy team likes it.
I don't really like E2 as a winger. I really don't get this. Like, he hasn't shown a heck of a lot in his time in the NHL that shows like, oh, maybe this guy needs a top 9 shot.
Okay, so I agree. Well, I don't know. I disagree that he hasn't shown that he deserves a shot at top 9. What I think the thought process is here is, who else are you putting with Lundell? I don't think you can stick Lundell with 2 newcomers. And I'm not sure you want Lomberg on your third line right now.
No, I don't.
So, look, if it were me, I would leave Lundell and Reinhart together, who were excellent together last season. But clearly, Paul Maurice wants that firepower up top.
I would do that too. And I would put Balcers on the top line, Colin White on the second line. But we did already see that in preseason, and I guess
For the
Paul
record,
Maurice-
I think that's when Anthony Duclair comes back, I think we get Verhaeghe, Barkov, Duclair, assuming that Kachuk and Bennett work. Verhaeghe, Barkov, Duclair, Kachuk, Bennett, Balsers, White, Lundell, Reinhart, Lomberg, Lestarnen, and Hornquist, with Cousins being your 13.
I think that Cousins will show that he's worth playing every night, but maybe I'm just
Really?
optimistic. Yeah.
I think Colin
fine.
White is more likely to show that than
Oh
Nick
yeah,
Cousins.
but he is. But like both of them are going to play
Okay.
every night. I think that you're more likely to see like a Lomberg come out of the lineup or Patrick Hornquist because he's like 36 and he's got like 300,000 miles on that pickup truck.
I thought you were
know?
going to say 300,000 games.
I mean, he looks like he's played 300,000 games.
He does.
I'm sure he feels like he's played 300,000 games. 300,000 good games, by the way. He's had an excellent career.
He's probably a Hall of Famer.
No way. He's not a
You don't
Hall
think
of
so?
Famer.
No.
No. This
I
was
think
the
his
NBA.
postseason performances with Pittsburgh get him into the Hall of Fame
No.
alone.
No.
Eric Stahl's maybe not going to get into the Hall of Fame. He's got like 1,100 points. He's got a ring.
That's true.
He's not getting in. Like, come on.
This-
Hornquist has no chance.
I agree with TJ. This isn't the NBA. Like
That's
the hall,
true.
this is the Hall of Fame, the NHL. Like people are talking about Luongo being a borderline person, even though we all know he's not. But like, I know it's a different position. But just Hornquist is not the kind of player that gets into the Hall of Fame. He gets his number retired by a team, but he does not
Probably
get
Not
into
this
the Hall of
team,
Pittsburgh.
by the way.
Yeah,
Fame.
it'll
No,
be
of
Pittsburgh.
course not the Panthers.
Here's a fun little exercise. Would you trade Hornquist for Matheson right now?
Yes.
Because I would do it.
I said yes as soon as you said, would you trade Hornquist? My answer does not change with the rest of that sentence being complete.
I'm gonna say no, even with the resurgence from Matheson, just because I don't want that contract.
How many
I
more
would-
years is on that? It's 3
2,
additional
maybe?
after this one.
No, it's
is it?
3. I think
Is it still that long?
it was an
feels like
8-year
that contract
contract.
was signed forever ago. Wasn't that contract signed 5 years ago?
I don't know, man. Time flies. If it was signed 5 years ago,
Holy
That
shit.
does sound
Yep,
right.
that's this year plus 3 more seasons.
Yeah, I just
But
don't want.
still,
that.
the way he's playing right now,
I don't
3
think it's
more
going to
seasons
be.
of Matheson at 4.5 at just shy of 5 million. Like, that's
Look,
not bad.
If he was really, I mean, not that Pittsburgh is the best run team, but like, would they really have just dumped him to Montreal if he was that
Well, they
good?
got Jeff
But he-
Petrie.
Yeah,
Who's
very
been
good.
bad?
Mhm.
Petrie's not been good the past few years.
Yes, he has.
Okay.
He's got a certain skill set,
He like, don't get me wrong, he's clearly starting to decline, but he is still quite good.
Okay.
If you use him in a certain role, he's got skills that are still there. We'll talk about Pittsburgh later because we're going to talk about everybody just a little bit.
For the
But,
record, what's left on Matheson's contract? So I believe it ends. I believe he'll be 32 when it ends. It's just shy of 5 million, which is pretty cheap for a top 4 defenseman right now. For a good top 4 defenseman right now.
I think
what's
he's not
left,
a good top 4 defenseman, but he's like maybe a top 4 defenseman if you take the good out of there.
He's been pretty good, but what's left on that contract is ultimately what I would have been comfortable giving to Mackenzie Weegar. I would have given Weegar a little bit more money because he's very good. But
We'll
in
talk
terms
about
of
the Uyghur
term,
contract in the Calgary part of this because I do actually want to talk about that.
I don't think that the way that Matheson has been playing since leaving Florida, I don't think what's left on that contract is nearly the albatross that it felt like it was when the Panthers traded him.
Yeah,
No,
but
it's not.
I still think that like at the time he needed to get out of Florida. He just
100%.
needed a
I don't
new
regret the trade at all. But if we
situation.
could reverse that trade right now, I would totally do it because the Panthers need that defense back.
Yeah, just not retroactively. We agree.
Right. Yeah, I'm not saying undo the trade. If we could just reverse the trade rate,
I mean, I think all of us would trade Hornquist for a defenseman that's making the same salary as him. Like, it almost doesn't even matter who it is; it's just somebody.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not Erica Branson. Not
No, not Erica Branson.
No.
He's built for it tough. Remember that.
you know that you mean it's like, oh, I'm so ready to do. Not you, Erica Branson's the not you.
I need any
Wait, can we make
defenseman.
one of those? Are there 8 former Panthers defensemen that we would want back? Or maybe not even defensemen. Hold on. If we can do
We'll go through the who he played for
I
and pick all
would
the
trade
defensemen.
back for you if we could.
Not you.
With a not you.
I'll just go back through who he played for and pick all the
Kulikov,
defensemen.
Pesek.
Not
Mark
Kulikov.
Pesek, Mason
Kulikov.
Marchment. If we're extending it to all players, Marchment.
Well, no, it's got to be defenseman. It's got to be
Okay.
defenseman.
Well, I don't know if there are 8 defensemen. It would have to be like Pesek, Kulikov, Demers, Matheson.
Demers doesn't even have an NHL contract, but I'd probably rather have him than Gabranson.
It's just for the meme of it.
Chris Weidman, currently
right.
quarterbacking Montreal's top power play.
Jeez,
So,
Janelle Turner.
I think that we've pretty much talked about everything like that we haven't already talked about in the offseason with the Panthers.
Power play.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that.
Brandon Montour at the top, Ekblad on the left wing, Barkov, I believe, is on the right, and then Bumper is Reinhart to Chuck in front of the net. What do you guys think?
I love the personnel.
They might switch Kachuk and Reinhart at some point.
They might switch Barkov and Reinhart at some point.
Yeah.
There are lots of ways to skin that rabbit, I guess.
You skin the cat. No, you skin it. It's lots of ways to skin
you can skin lots of
whatever.
things.
Yeah, you can, but I don't want to get into that list. Yeah, no, I like it. I don't think that the power play, that top unit will have a problem with overpassing, which is an issue we have seen with the Panthers power play historically. That is 5 players who love to shoot, including Brandon Montour. Yeah, obviously I love Ekblad on the half wall as the trigger man. You're obviously not taking Barkov off the top power play. Kachuk in front of the net is going to be great, unless you want Kachuk handling the puck more, in which case you park Reinhart in front of the net, like you were saying, Alex, and have Reinhart in the middle, or Kachuk in the middle. Like, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think that power play is chaos incarnate in like a very good way.
I agree. I like the move of putting Montour at the top. It's clear that Ekblad's not a power play quarterback. He's not a bad one, but he's not a great one.
Yeah.
And when you're a team that wants to compete for a Stanley Cup, you need a great power play quarterback. So I'm fine with trying different things. If Montour doesn't work, I hope it's Barkov that goes back to the point, not Ekblad, but we'll go from there.
I would guess that if Montour doesn't work, you just swap Montour and Forsling and give that a shot.
True.
One thing I do really like about Montour, no, he is not the greatest passer in the world. He's not the best puck distributor. But like I said, he loves his snapshots from the point. And that in and of itself is a threat on the power play. Just knowing that the defenseman is capable of shooting the puck from the point is a threat.
What I'm going to like about him on the power play, I think, is just like how much easier he's going to make the entries. Because he's got good foot speed. By the way, for what it's worth, over the last 3 seasons, Winnipeg 11th in power play goals per 60 at 5-on-4.
Okay.
So
that's not bad.
Maybe Paul Maurice kind of knows what he's doing. We'll see. Like, we're definitely skeptical of how he's going to do, and still kind of confused as to why the Panthers threw away a President's Trophy winning season in terms of their coaching staff. But
I think we kind of understand why that happened.
Yeah, it's kind of understandable given the circumstances of how he became coach. But
not even that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we don't need to hash that out again, but I don't agree.
The playoffs were all I needed to see with Bruno. Moving on.
The Panthers don't need a head coach learning on the fly. They need someone who knows what he's doing.
Yep. Is there anything else we need to talk about Panthers?
Do we expect them to be able to do anything at the trade deadline?
As of now, no.
Somehow they will figure out how. Honestly, their trade deadline acquisition might be bringing Anthony Duclair off of LTIR.
And the question is how?
Yeah, that I was about to say that's the last thing I want to talk about.
Somehow Patrick Hornquist will end up on LTIR.
Yeah, like the Panthers are essentially playing the same game Vegas played last year, where it's like somehow, some way, we're going to end up with enough guys on LTIR that we can bring other people back.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there is a reason, but like, wow, like Patrick Hornquist really still here. Like freaking crazy. It just doesn't not make mathematical sense, but whatever. We're beating a dead horse with Hornquist at this point. All right. Atlantic Division. Do you guys want to go in order of last year's standings or in alphabetical order?
Alphabetical.
All right. Let's get 30 seconds on the timer. Our first team is going to be the Boston Bruins. And once I read out their over-under, the timer will start. All right, guys, their over-under is 96.5.
Over.
I love the over.
Over.
Krejci's back. Bergeron's
I've got
back.
Boston finishing third.
It seems like Grzelcyk is actually going to come back pretty soon. That's going to be a big help for them.
And McAvoy will be back before the new year.
Taylor Hall is back now. He didn't miss
scored
any
a goal
time
already.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a lot of injuries. They're older, but I'm not counting the Bruins out until they're gone. And
Jim Montgomery, good coach.
Yes.
Yeah.
New coach, good coach.
I would have loved Jim Montgomery back when he was originally hired. I would have liked him again now, but this
Buffalo Sabres are the next team. Over under 77.5 points.
Under. Again, what the hell are you doing with that contract?
I like the over here, but like not by much. I think they're going to be about 80, 81 maybe. I just think this team is going to get better. Like Owen Power's sick.
Yeah, but like there's still not much talent on that team. Like Tage Thompson, I don't see him hitting 40 goals again.
I think one of the young guys will take a bigger step. Maybe not.
Owen Power is going to be great eventually. I mean, how do we feel about Rasmus Dahlin at this point in his career?
I mean, Rasmus Dahlin, until proven otherwise, he's a guy. He's a middle pairing guy right now. Like
I think he's a little better than that, but like clearly not number one overall. Like Owen Power, I think, is already a better player.
He gets compared to Miro Heiskanen a lot, and Heiskanen is a lot better than Dahlin right now.
Yeah. I'd still definitely take Dahlin on the Panthers.
Oh, that's a different.
There are very few defensemen like that I wouldn't take on the Panthers right now, though.
Yeah.
So that's not a fair way to look at it.
I would probably trade Forsling for him right away. Like I wouldn't think about it.
Disagree. But to quote The Office, the game isn't would you do her? It's is she hot? And Rasmus Dahlin is not hot.
All right. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin, I feel like that's just not a situation that I have a good read on, I guess. Let's move on to the Detroit Red Wings. Over under 84.5.
Under. They still got a ways to go.
I think I got to take the under here too. I wanted to convince myself that the Red Wings were going to take a step, but then I looked at their defense, and then I looked at the Senators' defense, who I've always said, like, oh, their defense isn't good enough. I don't think the Red Wings have a better defense. Like, sorry, it sucks. You went and signed Ben Sherratt. Like, I'm sorry, Ben Sherratt's not good. We just saw that. We know he's not good. Jacob,
this is a tougher one for me. I don't like the Red Wings. I don't think they're good. But in terms of an over-under, I mean, even their defense, like, Moritz Seider is great.
Yeah.
Oli Mata is still serviceable. That's two people.
It's two people.
yeah, come on. No. Yzerman, why? Yzerman, why?
The question for me with Detroit is, will their actually pretty decent forward core be enough to outscore their problems? I like Robbie Fabry a lot. Dylan Larkin is very good. Pius Suter was always kind of an under-the-radar good player. Bertuzzi, as much as I don't like him, is still a decent player. Kubalik, Perron, Lucas Raymond, Phillips, like they've got players. You didn't even
say the guy that I think is going to have a big season, Jacob Vrana.
Vrana too. Like they've got players.
You gotta put him on your watch list in your fantasy league. If he hits the waiver wire, claim him. That's a guy you should want on your fantasy team. All right, I got 2 minutes on the clock because this is a team of interest, and we're going to move on to them. The Ottawa Senators, their over-under is 86.5 points.
I'm going to surprise you and say over, but it's
Yeah, I'm
going to be
go
87 points.
with a slight over.
Yeah.
Not enough to get them into the playoffs, but
not enough to go for it, TJ.
I was going to say this is one of the hardest ones because that number is really close to where I think they're going to be. And, thinking about, like I said, where Detroit is, where Ottawa is in relativity, and we always said Ottawa's defense isn't good enough despite those forwards. Well, is their defense really that much worse than the other bottom class teams in the Atlantic? I really can't say with confidence because I like Artem Zub. Thomas Chabot is a definitive number one defenseman. And even if they don't have anything else, well, who in the division really has a good bottom four? It's the top class teams. That's it.
Yeah, they're clearly the best of the rest teams. It's just they're not good enough to compete with the top three in the Atlantic, or excuse me, the top four. They're just not. But someone's got to pick up the points that, if we're going to say under on Detroit, under on Buffalo, certainly under on Montreal, like someone's going to have to pick up those points, and I think it's going to be Ottawa.
Yeah, I'm
what I'll say
of...
about Ottawa is if they played in the Western Conference, I think they would be in the wild card hunt.
I think that they'll be kind of in the hunt, but kind of in the Panthers situation of 5 points back with 2 games in hand, the classic Panthers position.
Yeah, outside looking in, not inside.
I'm suspicious of Anton Forsberg repeating what he did last year because that was a complete out of left field performance.
Is he their starting goalie?
Well, Cam Talbot's injured, so he's gonna be.
Oh no!
Even then, Cam Talbot without
Cam Talbot's not great anyway. Yeah.
No, he sure isn't.
He is, Jacob. We're out of time on Ottawa. I'm gonna say over. What the hell? We all went over on Ottawa.
It's a slight over.
It's
not
a
enough
very
to make the
slight
playoffs,
over.
but a slight over.
They're clearly in the second tier and above the third tier, so that makes them an over.
All right, Jacob, it's time for you to make your case. The Tampa Bay Lightning, their over-under is a 103.5 point season.
Hard under. Tampa's finishing 8th.
Now,
Vassie's washed.
I kind of wanted
Stamkos
to have
is made of glass.
This conversation before yesterday because yesterday is now, illustrating our thoughts on this because the Lightning looked absolutely horrible against the Rangers last night. The Rangers boat raced them in a 3-1 win that was not even as close as the score indicated. They pretty much doubled the Rangers in shots and expected goals. They didn't even need Igor Shesterkin to stand on his head. It was a very comfortable, dominant performance. And you got to be ringing the alarm bells for the Lightning after seeing that. Are they going to be able to be the same old Lightning without Ryan McDonough, without Andre Palat, without Anthony Cirelli for the first part of the season? Because they sure didn't look like it.
Yeah, they're also missing Jan Ruda. Like that defense, they just keep losing their depth. And I keep, they're kind of like Boston to me. I'll believe that they're down and out when they're down and out. So for now,
but that's going to happen this season.
I will say slight under and say they finish between 100 and 103.
Nah,
but
77 points.
I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'm gonna stick to my guns and say over. I think that eventually they're gonna wake up angry from not winning the Stanley Cup and get their act together. I think Braden Point is eventually going to show us he's an elite player. But based on last night,
they're going to run out of steam and overplay Andrei Vasilevsky, and everything's going to come crashing back down. So maybe they'll have one good stretch in January. But guess what? 8th in the division.
Could you imagine that team with Connor Bedard, though? That would be really bad. That would be
I
really
didn't say
bad.
last place.
They don't have their first round pick. They traded it to Chicago.
Oh, thank God.
Ew, that's not fun either.
Yeah, so no Connor Bedard for you. I don't think that will happen.
Montreal, as we're about to get to talking about both of these teams, Montreal is up 3-2 on Toronto, guys.
Oh, I forgot Montreal.
Also, yeah, way to go alphabetical order there, TJ.
Oh my God, I totally missed that.
Up 3-2.
The Montreal Canadiens.
Sean Monahan scored a goal.
Their over-under is 72.5.
Hard under.
Over.
Hard under.
Over.
That team's going to finish in
the real low.
It's really low.
They're going to finish in the 60s. They are
I
going.
think it's
for
hard to be
Bedard.
that bad. Like, I'm just playing the numbers here. Over.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them another slight over. I don't think they're bad enough for 72 or below.
I think they are.
That's a low number.
Mike Matheson legacy season when he comes back, and Cole Caulfield 30
I
goals.
like Montreal's forward group.
30 goals for Cole Caulfield.
Suzuki and Caulfield are awesome.
They got to send down
Slavkovsky.
They got to send him down.
You think so?
He's not ready.
Okay.
But
like
so.
Brandon Gallagher, there's no way Brandon Gallagher is going to be as bad as he was last year.
I agree with you.
Slavkovsky's a bust, by the way.
Should have taken Shane Wright.
Yeah, I unironically agree.
Yeah, no, I like their forward core a lot. I like their young forwards, and I like Brendan Gallagher. What I don't like is Jake Allen.
3-3.
Oh my God, who scored?
Just as I was saying, what I don't like
Nylander.
is Jake Allen.
Nylander, and no, it was a complete defensive breakdown, 2-on-1. Dadonov with a turnover.
Oh, Dadonov. Because I thought that at the end of the year last year for Vegas, he was actually awesome. So that was one of the guys I thought maybe he pushed them over, but maybe he just will suck. Who knows?
Maybe he's finally 33 years old.
I think that they're not going to try to be in the Bedard sweepstakes because they think they're already in it. So we're not going to see them like make the kind of moves that Buffalo did in the McDavid draft year, where they were like clearly tanking. Now, other teams that we'll talk about, I think they will be doing that.
I have one last thing on Montreal. Caden Goulet, who Montreal fans say is better than Anton Lundell, got beat like a fucking drum on that.
He's also not better than Lundell. Caden Goulet is not. He wasn't a good prospect. He wasn't a good draft pick. He's not going to be a good NHL player.
Oh no, it's offside.
Is it really?
It's
still
offside. 3-2. It's going to be 3-2. It's offside by a hair.
All right, live coverage of a game that's already over. I'm sure the Maple Leafs won 7-3. So, speaking of the Maple Leafs, we got some hot takes from you on Twitter. Thanks everybody for replying. A lot of Maple Leafs tweets. We should read some of the Panthers tweets, by the way, because we forgot to read those. We got one from @HoobyDoobyDoo who says the Leafs go 0-81-1.
Who do they tie though? Who do they get the OTL against?
Montreal tonight.
Yeah.
No, see, the reason that I just can't agree with that take is then Tampa can't finish in last unless they go 0-82-0.
On the complete other side of things, @lens_darkly says Toronto wins the Stanley Cup. Now, I did predict that they would win the President's Trophy, but I do feel like that's a completely different thing. I would handicap Carolina as the favorite to come out of the East.
I agree.
Mainly because I think the Metro is a pillow fight this year, except for those guys.
I disagree.
We got another hot take from @Devin Nolf, I think. I may be pronouncing that wrong. He says Austin Matthews scores 70 if he plays a full season.
My fantasy team would appreciate that.
That's a lot of goals.
He's that good. I
think there was a point last season, like before he missed those 10 games, that he was actually pacing close to that.
I mean, he scored 50 goals in 50 games. So that was pretty ridiculous. I think that's every Toronto hot take that we got. Oh, friend of the show, I think it's @FLA Panthers Punk, said Toronto gets the Eastern Conference Finals, at least the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they're going to win a round this year.
That's a bold statement. Making them win a round, that's a bold statement. Oh, wow, they called that onside. I am shocked.
The Toronto Maple Leafs over-under is 108.5.
Over.
And I still have to take the over despite how high that number is.
Over.
We've taken so many unders. Someone has to be it. I think it's going to be Toronto.
I think I've gone over for most of the teams in this division. I went over on Buffalo. I went over on Ottawa. I went over on Tampa. I went over on Toronto, and I went over on Montreal. But I think the other three teams I went under on. Detroit, Florida.
I think Toronto is going to feast on the Atlantic a little bit this season.
Oh, I didn't say over under on Boston. Over. I just think the Metro's not that good. We'll get to that, obviously.
Toronto's forwards group is just so good.
And the defense is really deep. They have a great defense. It's not as good at the top level as the Panthers or the Bruins, for example, but when you have Mark Giordano on your third pairing, that's depth.
4-3 Montreal. A horrible defense from Toronto. It's so
As
funny.
TJ is talking about how good the defense is.
TJ's just sucking off the Toronto defense, and I'm just like, here they are buried in their own zone. It's really bad. Montreal scores what's likely the game winner with 18
My
seconds
fantasy team
left.
appreciates that.
Josh
Watch
Anderson.
this one get called back for something.
Was it a Justin Hall turnover or something?
There was Muzzin and Hole out there.
Okay,
yeah, Muzzin
so-
with the turnover. It was
Yeah,
Muzzin.
But
And it was
he's
a
going to be on
bad
the third
turnover.
pairing. He's going to be on the third pairing and maybe on LTIR at points this year.
That was a bad turnover from Muzzin. Holy shit.
I didn't say Muzzin because he's not one of the guys I'm particularly high on. But I mean, hey, like when you have Muzzin as like your fifth or sixth best guy, you're deep. They have TJ Brody, they have Morgan Riley, they have two young guys I really like in dang, what are their names? you know who I'm talking about.
Lilligren and
Sandy
Sandy.
Yeah, those two. I think those guys are top four. I think those two are future top four defensemen.
I still hold that if Timothy Liljegren didn't have mono in his draft year, he would have been a top 10 pick, or at least a top 15.
Oh, absolutely. He was projected to be a top 5 pick going into the season.
Was he?
Yeah.
He was.
I don't
he was
remember him
one of
being
the
that
top
high.
prospects of the
Oh yeah,
draft.
he was. A
I
top 5
remember really liking him. I don't remember him being projected top 5.
He's good though. Like no worse for wear.
I remember drafting him in my career mode in NHL, whatever year that
Oh yeah,
was.
he became a god in the NHL franchise.
I think that Samsonov or Murray will eventually turn out to be a good goalie this year. One of them,
I agree with that.
One of them might not be, but I mean that Samsonov signing was just that was such a savvy signing. And that's it for the Atlantic Division. Who do you guys think is going to win it? We all agree Toronto.
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 Do we want to give our rundown of our
I think we
actual
kind of
standings
already.
predictions?
I think we kind of already did, but just to reiterate, Toronto is winning that division. Okay, Metropolitan Division, and this time we will actually go in alphabetical order. I will not fuck this up. Carolina Hurricanes over under 103.5. Over.
Way over.
Way over.
110.
Over.
Way over.
110 plus.
Talk about feasting on a division. My goodness.
Svechnikov is going to score 45 goals.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
I 40.
I don't know. I think that
extra 5 is asking a lot.
I think that's a team that is going to just destroy you with their depth, and you're going to see a lot of guys with 20 plus. I don't think you see someone with above 35 on that team.
Good
But
goalie. Good goalies. Don't you agree, goalie guy?
Yeah, good goalies.
Strong defense too.
The Columbus Blue Jackets have an over-under of 80.5.
Over.
Under.
I'm taking way over.
That number is too low, but I'm not in love with this team anyway. I'm going to take a slight over.
I'm going to take over enough for Columbus to sneak into a wild card spot.
Ooh, interesting.
That team is Johnny Gaudreau, Werenski, and not much else. Like they've got prospects.
Did Patrick Laine die? I know he did already get injured, but like
okay.
That team is Patrick Laine. That team is Jake Voracek.
Voracek is not Jake Voracek anymore.
Him is Boone Jenner. That team is Parkland native Andrew Peak,
who's not
good.
Shut up. He's from Florida. Yeah, that automatically makes him good. That's how that works. I'm sorry. Like I don't make the rules.
I love Kent Johnson as a prospect. I think they've got a lot of good pieces for the future. Cole Sillinger, I like. They're just nowhere close.
Yeah, their drafting record is great. Don't you guys think they're so good at drafting?
Yes.
Josh,
they're excellent at drafting. Alex, shut up. I'm not naming names.
Everybody knows what we're talking about. Everybody knows what we're talking about.
No, I think Columbus is going to sneak into a wild card spot.
All right. I can't believe that alphabetically we're already there, but unless I'm reading this wrong, New Jersey Devils over under 89.5.
Under.
That team is going to disappoint again, and Lindy Ruff is going to be the first coach fired.
I love Jack Hughes. Again, Floridian Jew. Gotta love him.
Jack Hughes is carrying this team to the over.
I love Dougie Hamilton. I'm a big fan of Nico Hischier. That's the end of the list of good players on the New Jersey Devils.
Don't forget Andre Palat. But I honestly
I don't know.
I don't love the team, but I think that Jack Hughes is going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation this year if he's healthy all year.
I feel like I should also just clarify about the Jackets that they are sneaking into a wild card spot predicated on my prediction that Tampa finishes 8th. I have Columbus 5th in the Metro. I just feel like I need to clarify that.
I've been saying a lot of overs, so I'm glad that this team is coming up now. The New York Islanders over under 91.5.
Under.
Welcome to the Long Island retirement home, guys. Under. This team is so goddamn old.
Yeah. Good for them that they were able to get Barzal to sign. I'll use my 10 seconds or whatever on Barzal to say, good for you guys. You got Barzal to stay. Yeah. You probably overpaid him a little bit for what his actual production is. Talent-wise, I think it's fair. He just hasn't progressed like we all thought he would.
Shout out to what's the defenseman that they extended? The guy from the QJMHL. Oh my God, what is his name?
Is it either Pellick
Noah
or
Dobson?
Pollock?
Noah Dobson. I like.
I like
but
Dobson.
I mean, like
I also like Pellick and Pollock.
Yeah, I don't know though. Those guys just they don't even seem like the same guys they were when that team was going to the second and third rounds.
Oh, look, don't get me wrong. They're not neither one of them is a number one, but they're both very good defensemen.
It's a shame if this team can kind of tear down that veteran group that is making too much money. They have a nice little core of Sorokin, Barzal, Dobson. If they can build around that, they've done the hard part, sort of like the old Florida Panthers. All right. You guys ready for a contentious
I'm very
debate?
excited for this one.
The New York Rangers over is 99.5.
Over.
Under, I think.
Under.
I think Sorokin, Shesterkin goes back to being merely one of the 3 best goalies in the world rather than a guy who had a Hall of Fame season.
Yeah.
There's not many goalies who've had a better season ever than what Shesterkin did last year. I think he regresses to the mean a little bit and is still a god. He's just a mortal god. Mm-hmm. And that team does not repeat as the division champ of the Metro. I think they are a wild card team.
Here's
Carolina's still going to win the division. Don't get me wrong, but I think the Rangers are a very strong second place in the Metro.
Here's my case for the Rangers to not only go under, but to miss the playoffs. I agree with Alex that Igor's going to be
shreds.
Igor's going to be a merely very, very, very good goalie. And coming off of a season where he was working 150% as hard as most goalies do every night because his team was getting shelled. They were a bottom 10, maybe 15. I can't remember which it was in Corsi. I think that the scoring was predicated on unsustainable power play production and unsustainable Chris Kreider production in particular. He's not getting any younger. Artemi Panarin is not getting any younger, and I still think he's going to be very good, but we're talking about an offense that was really carried by those guys and Mika Zibanejad, who, despite playing very well last night, I really don't think he's
streaky.
I don't think he's a number one center, bona fide number one center. Not to say he's not in the top 32, but he's not one of those franchise center guys, in my opinion. And Adam Fox is great, but the rest of the defense is unproven. I think that you can really say good things about a lot of those guys, but I just think that they haven't shown me that they're a sustainably good team.
They don't need to be.
Okay.
And that's my take. Igor. So I just look, say what you want about my call that they're going to finish second in the Metro. And this is a conversation that is going to repeat itself when we get to the Western Conference. I don't think a team that has a perennial Norris candidate, a perennial Vezina candidate should be missing the playoffs. And this will come back up when we talk about the West, and consider that a bit of a teaser.
All right.
Artemi Panarin is due for a bounce back season as far as his 5-on-5 numbers go. He was uncharacteristically bad at 5-on-5. Not to say he was bad, but he was a lot worse than normal 5-on-5. Is he getting younger? No, but he's going to be better than he was last year at 5-on-5. Zibanejad is still a good enough center. He can play 1C. He once scored 40 goals, let's not forget. And it's not like it was a Joe Thornton and that random nobody who scored 50 with him.
Jonathan Chichu, I think.
Yes, thank you. I always mix up Chichu, Tutu, and Setaguchi for some reason. Like I always forget which one of the three of them it was. I really like Zibanejad. I think Panarin is still a top 5 winger in the league. I think Lafreniere is eventually going to hit his stride. Kakko I'm not as high on, but whatever. I like Philip Hedl a lot too. And as far as the defense goes, yeah, Adam fucking Fox.
Yeah, Adam Fox is
these Jews,
goat.
Man.
He's the goat.
They're getting real good at hockey.
I just don't know. Like we think that those young guys are eventually going to take a step. Like maybe it doesn't happen. Like we're talking about, none of those guys had 40 points last year. They didn't. None of them got 40 points.
Vinny Trocheck might have been overpaid for, but he's still Vinny Trocheck.
Yeah, I think the term is the problem there.
More interjecting that's not needed. The Avalanche just took their photo in front of the Stanley Cup banner, and Jack Johnson's in the photo wearing his new white Blackhawks jersey, and I just think it's the funniest thing.
That's awesome. That's the best. We'll get to the Western Conference in a little bit. That one ran long, obviously, so this one will be quick. Philadelphia Flyers, 73.5. Yeah. Sorry. This is going to be the roller coaster going off the tracks of the year. Under. And I still think they're going to outkick their coverage a little bit with John Tortorella, but like this team has no talent. What the heck are they going to do?
They're going to participate in the United States of Tortorella.
I still think that the best picture to come out of preseason is the picture of Tortorella standing in front of his team at practice with one of his players just laying flat on the ice.
Oh. And then who was it that wanted to go to Hooters for lunch in between after practice?
Probably
that was Travis Connect.
Isn't that a story that came?
I think that was a joke.
To go to Hooters.
I think that was a joke. We do have some Flyers hot takes. Guess who said this? Owen Tippett has a 50-point
This is the team that's
going
to go 0-82-0.
Guess who said Owen Tippett has a 50-point season?
50-point or 50 goal?
50-point. Guess who said it?
Thing.
Dylan.
Dylan did say that.
At Miami guy Dylan.
Does he attend the University of Northwestern?
He does.
That's right. Yes. At Price Tag 31 did say, for the record, Owen Tippett becomes a 30-plus goal scorer.
In the AHL, yes.
I think that this team might have the most man games lost for injury of any team in the last 50 years. It's going to be unbelievable how many injuries they have, because they're going to bag skate every other day in practice, and guys are going to be tearing their ACLs. Plus, they already have a bunch of injuries, and I mean they're rushing Sean Couturier.
Yeah,
back
not to mention Couturier. Yeah, Couturier is already out. Ellis is already out.
Kevin Hayes is not going to come back as Kevin Hayes.
All right, so that's 4 key players who are already injured before Philadelphia even plays a game.
Yeah, it's gonna be iffy. Let's move on. Pittsburgh Penguins, 101.5. This one's hard for me. This is hard. I'm gonna say under.
I'm taking the under there.
I'm gonna say under.
I've got Pittsburgh finishing third. I've got Pittsburgh finishing third in the Metro. I think they're still a very I'm not going to say a very good team, but if they can stay healthy and if their goalies aren't literal sheets of paper, they're going to make the playoffs pretty calmly in that
I like
division.
them at about 99, 98.
Yeah.
97,
Basically, yeah, give me flip the Rangers and Penguins numbers, and I think that's about where you land.
That's fair. That's certainly fair. And then the last team in this division is the Washington Capitals at 96.5. Again, These guys know what they're doing. That's a very hard number to pick. Oh, man. Give me the over. What the hell? Give me the over.
Over.
Don't bet against Ovi.
Ovi and his
don't bet against
his hunt for goals.
Darcy
No
Kemper is
Backstrom.
Darcy Kemper going to be able to do it behind not the
He didn't
Avalanche
tonight.
No Backstrom,
I think that,
no Wilson.
no Backstrom actually doesn't hurt them that much because he's cooked, and that's a bad injury that had been affecting him.
Who are their centers behind Kuznetsov?
Well, they did sign Dylan
Strome.
Strome.
Is that?
Yeah, Dylan Strome's good. He's going to help them.
Dylan Strome has not been consistently good ever in his
Borgstrom
NHL
did not
career.
make the Washington Capitals. Shocking.
Honestly, that is a little shocking considering how thin that team is at center. Do they still have Lars Eller?
Yes, they do.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's your three.
Nick
Or,
Dowd.
honestly, maybe he's your two and Dylan Strome is your three. I don't know. I don't know on the over-under for this one. 96 feels right.
Yeah, that's a
I
tough
do
one.
have them making the playoffs in a wild card spot. Over like on top of Columbus. I've got Washington fourth in the Metro. But I don't know. 96 is a tough number to call for them.
Unlike you, I am a gambling man, and you could not pay me to bet on this over-under because
Yeah,
it is such a tough line.
It's tough, man. I'm going to say slight over, like opposite of the Penguins, just a little bit over.
I'll take slight under. I'll
Okay.
still have them in a wild card spot with a slight under
They could get into the 8th spot with a little bit less than that, I think.
with 96 or 95. Like, yeah, I'm talking 96 or 95. I don't think they finish lower than that.
All right, before we
I
move
just
on
don't see them
from
going up to like 97 or 98.
Go west, young meow.
before we go west,
Nice.
Do
That
we
was a
have any-
Pokemon reference.
do we have
just so
any
everyone
final
knows.
comments on the Eastern Conference?
I
Tampa
still can't
eighth in
believe
the Atlantic.
I still can't
Massey
believe
washed.
Buffalo extended a defensive defenseman. I just can't believe it.
It's
And their coach.
I like the coach one. That's fine. I like Don Granato. The defenseman one, I just don't see the upside. I don't see a world where Matthias Samuelsson is a guy that, like, wow, 4-point whatever is a bargain. I just do not see that.
Yeah.
I think he's good, though. I think that he's not going to be out of the league. I'm pretty confident of that. So are we going west now?
We're going west.
Unless we want to
Pacific-
run down our like actual playoff teams for
Okay,
the
sure.
East. All right. So out of the Atlantic, I've got Toronto, Florida, Boston. Out of the Metro, I've got Carolina, the Rangers, and Pittsburgh. Wild cards are Washington, Columbus. Tampa, 8th.
Tampa 16th.
8th in the division.
Yeah.
All right. Toronto, Florida, Boston, Tampa, Carolina, Rangers, Penguins. I guess Washington. I don't see. There's no changes because I just You know what? Even though I said they were under, I'm gonna say the Devils. Fuck it. Be different.
I'm taking the Devils on the 8th spot as well. I have Toronto, Tampa, Florida, Boston, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Washington, and New Jersey because I need an 8th and because I think Jack Hughes is that good.
I don't understand how you justify the Devils over the Rangers. I will never
Because the
understand
Rangers
that
have
pick.
a terrible 5-on-5 numbers.
Artemi
I don't see
Panarin
that.
alone is better than the entirety of the Devils roster.
Oh, I would much rather have Jack Hughes this year than Panarin.
I would
sure.
put out Panarin and Shesterkin versus I would 20-man Devils roster, and I would bet on the Rangers.
No, you wouldn't, but whatever.
No, I wouldn't. But
Go west.
All right. Yeah, those are the playoff teams we have. Pacific or Central?
Central.
All right,
Central.
we're starting
Yeah,
in
we're-
the Central.
making our way across the map.
File under, can you make this any lower? Arizona Coyotes 65.5. You
That's-
have to say under.
It's gonna be the
I have to answer this question as a twofer. What is Chicago's over under?
Chicago's over under is 66.5.
Okay, I'm going to say Arizona over.
Okay.
Ooh.
I think you could make a lot of money fading Arizona and Chicago just every single game they play.
Well, they're just gonna be such big underdogs every night, though. I don't know. But like Arizona, I feel like is in the category of teams that like if they are winning, they will do anything they can to stop that from happening in the future. They will block it. They do not want to win. They want Connor Bedard. And I think that's what they should do. They're smart. He's going to be a generational player.
Are they smart?
Yeah.
I mean,
In this case,
they're
they
playing
are.
in a college arena.
The Chicago Blackhawks.
So they're smart. They're learning.
The Chicago Blackhawks over under is 66.5.
Under.
Control Z, Control V. Under.
Guys, I'm very happy right now. Anaheim is playing and they're wearing the Wild Wing logo jersey and not that stupid duck script. So progress is being made.
Oh my God. Montreal beat Toronto.
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
Game
wait.
over. Game
That
is
happened
over.
a long time ago, Jake.
Well,
Alex.
I haven't been paying attention.
Did you take the under on Chicago?
I'm
Yeah.
taking the under on Chicago, yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
Ducks up 1-0.
Just to repeat myself.
Was it
Chicago-
Zegras? Please tell me it was Zegras.
Troy Terry.
Just to repeat myself, Chicago will do whatever it takes to continue losing, and if they're winning, they will stop it in its tracks.
So I know that there's a whole thing with Arizona and Chicago and who's going to finish eighth. And I think a lot of people think Arizona is far and away the worst team in the league. I'm going to put Chicago in 32nd place. Asterisk.
I agree with you, honestly.
It really depends how early in the season they trade away Patrick Kane.
I think that College Arena is going to make Arizona competitive at home, but they're going to go 0-41 on the road. Like I when I saw them claim Jonas Johansson, which sadly they've waived him again, I thought, oh, they're just going to.
And Colorado picked him up
because he's going into the AHL. They can assign him to the AHL, but I thought that they were going to play him in every road game so that they would lose, but that didn't happen. F in the chat. Can we
but
move on
there
to
is no
Dallas?
tanking in the NHL.
Let's move on to Dallas. Colorado's over under is 111.5.
Over.
I have to go under. That's just too high.
No, you do realize what division they get to play in, right?
I guess you're right, but at the same time, I just think that they just won the cup, and they are not as deep as they were last year. Like this team knows they can. Yeah, goaltending is not as strong as it was.
Still gonna run away with the division.
They will, but they're not going to hit. You know what? They get to play. How many combined games against Arizona and Chicago? Was it 8?
At least
Let's
8.
say 7.
7 or 8 combined games against Arizona. Yeah,
That's
16
but
points right
Arizona beat them twice
that is
last
16
year.
guaranteed points right away.
you know what? I'm going to say slightly under, but they're still the best roster in the NHL.
Oh yeah, I think they're going to win the cup, but I think they're going to go under because the regular season is just a foregone conclusion for them, and they're not as good in net as they were. Here's one I want to spend a little bit of extra time on. The Dallas Stars are at 95.5, and I'm not sure why nobody is with me on this. I think that they're going to be awesome this year. I have a big over.
They are going to be good enough. I have a slight over. They are wild card 1.
I have a slight over as well. I do not see the team as awesome. They're going to need a lot of bounce back from a lot of players like Seguin.
Yeah. That's a team that's not getting any younger.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, look at some of the guys that they have. I think Jason Robertson is an emerging star in this league. I think Rupe Hintz.
Oh, I love Jason Robertson. I love Miro Heiskanen.
Yeah, Miro Heiskanen is about to go off because John Klingberg is not there to block some of his production. I think that Tyler Seguin is finally in the year after the injury. He's about to become a much more productive player than he had been. And if he's like your second line center, because you have Rupe Hintz, like that's deep. And I think that the X factor is Mason Marchment, who looked like Mason Marchment on the Florida Panthers in the preseason. I know that we've said, you can't really count on what he did because it was only 1 year. I still see that guy in the Dallas Stars uniform. I think he's going to have a great year.
I think you want to see that.
Great enough to finish in wild card 1 in the West.
And also Jake Ottinger is a very good goalie.
I hope so. I have him on 2 fantasy teams.
I think he's a good goalie. Wouldn't call him a very good goalie.
He is the second best goalie in the Central Division.
That's not saying much.
Yeah, I think that I can agree to that, but just perusing the Central Division,
I would say Fleury's better.
it's between him and Fleury. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Interesting.
Speaking of Fleury,
That is not who I had in mind.
Oh, Hellebuck.
Oh yeah,
Also
Hellebuck
not who
for
I had
sure.
in mind. Never mind.
Yeah,
Ottinger's the
Saros-
third best goalie in the division.
Saros, Hellebuck, and Fleury. So
It's no small feat to overcome Hellebuck and Saros. Those are two of the very, very best. But maybe he'll be better this year. You can't say for sure he won't.
True.
Let's
Goalies
move
are
on to
weird.
the Minnesota Wild. Their over-under is 101.5. This
Over.
one's hard. This one's really hard.
Over. I've got to take the over. I've got them second in the Central.
I think over second in the Central, but it's going to be slightly. It's like
I'm
102,
gonna say
103.
over because of the points they pick up against Arizona and Chicago. I don't love this team. If they were in the Atlantic,
But those
I don't-
are also accounted for in the over-unders.
Yeah, I just like you look at the point total and you're like, I don't know if they're that good, but like it's just that the schedule is going to be easy. So I think that puts them over the top. Any other things to say about Minnesota before we move on?
Nope.
All right, Nashville Predators over under is 97.5.
Over.
I'm going to take a slight under here.
Slide under 96.
I think
Over.
that they sneak
Third
in the
in the
back
Central.
door, second wild card. UC Saros gets them
Third
there.
in the Central.
I like their offseason, but the thing is that last year, Yossi and Duchesne had godly seasons and they barely squeaked in. So even though they had a good offseason, that's only going to keep them where they were last year.
Nino Niederreiter is going to be the value signing of the offseason.
Oh, yeah, that was a bargain.
Nino's going to be very good for them.
I like their offseason, but I just think that Yossi and Duchesne will not be as good as they were last year. So they're just going to be.
I don't think Duchesne will be, but I think Yossi will. And this brings me back around to what I was saying about New York. It is hard to say that a team with a Norris candidate and a Vezina candidate is going to miss the playoffs or just sneak in. That's how I feel about Yossi and Saros, just as it's how I felt about Fox and Shesterkin. Obviously not to the same degree. I think Fox is better than Yossi. I think Shesterkin is better than Saros. I think that Nashville's forward core is very good. Like Alex said, Niederreiter is a huge pickup for their depth. I think their defense is good enough. They have four very serviceable defensemen.
Yeah, McDonough.
Yossi, Fabro,
For
Ekholm,
free.
McDonough. And
That's
then
crazy.
they got Saros backstopping. Like,
Yeah.
come on, that's a playoff team.
What if Askarov
That's
plays
third in the
games this
division.
year? Like he
I-
looked unbelievable in the preseason.
He did, and I picked him up in my dynasty league as the lifetime keeper.
Great
But
job.
I don't think the plan is to play him this year. He's already
Probably
in
not.
the AHL.
Yeah, well,
Um,
maybe he'll play
yeah,
some
I
games
just-
and
I find it very difficult to place them below third in the division. I really think Nashville is going to have a good year.
I think that's fair. Let's talk about a team that I feel strongly about again. The St. Louis Blues over under is 95.5. And I think back to the season that the Islanders had last year. And I think back to the season that the Sharks had in 2019-20. And I think that this is the life cycle point that the St. Louis Blues have reached. If you look at that defense, it's old. The youngest guy in their top four is somebody that's got a lot of miles and a lot of injuries on his body in Colton Parayko. And behind him, they have Torrey Krug, who's good, but he's 31. They have
Krug is
Justin
going
Falk,
to become Keith Yandel.
Justin Falk, who's good, but he's 30. And why did they sign Nick Leddy? And then behind him, they have another 30-plus guy in Robert Bortuzzo. And then the only guy that's younger than me, besides Parayko, who's younger than me by 2 days, is Juuso Riikola. And he is like 26, and he's a sixth defenseman. So, like, I just don't know if you can win with an old group on D in this league anymore because, like, people can just skate around them. Like, this is such a speed-based league. And their goaltending, like, Binnington is super volatile. Can they rely on him for a full year? Because behind him, they got, like, the corpse of Thomas Greiss. Like, why didn't they go out and get a backup that could actually be serviceable? Grice was awful last year, and so was Binnington for the most part. Like, that goaltending looks brutal. That defense looks brutal. I love Kyrou. I love Thomas, but hard under. Alex.
TJ, you had one job, and I'm probably dating myself with this joke, but you had to do it. Mikola.
I have a sore throat. I should have done
I
it.
was thinking it.
Thank you.
I
didn't date myself.
Big time under. I had a very hard time. I think there's basically a clump of 6 teams that are all going to finish very close together in the Western Conference. And it took me a while to figure out which one of them was going to miss the playoffs. And I ended up landing on St. Louis. Under, they're going to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, I have under on St. Louis as well. This team is just their window closed. They still have guys that they shouldn't have. And yeah, they're just not in a great spot.
It's a shame that Colton Parayko never became the player he should have become.
Injuries.
I was very high on Parayko.
I'm still high on
he won a cup.
That's true.
The issue was he went from the most underrated defenseman in the NHL to unfortunately getting injured a bunch, so he could never get that shine of, hey, I'm a true number one after he was out from the shadow of what's
Alex
his name?
Pietrangelo.
Outside the shadow of Pietrangelo.
All right. Moving on to the last team in the Central, the Winnipeg Jets over-under is 87.5. Another good number by Vegas. They know what they're doing. I will take the under because I think they might trade some guys at the deadline, and that will take them under.
I don't know. I've got Winnipeg 6th. Like, it was hard for me personally to say Winnipeg is going to take a pretty significant step back, but I think they will. Because I like the Jets. They don't have a defense.
Didn't they finish 6th last year, though? That's not even a step back. That's where they are.
I guess. They don't have a defense. They have Josh Morrissey. I guess they have Neil Pionk, but
kind of like him.
He's good on the power play. I like him, but they don't have they don't have a true number one.
Alex?
And I don't think their depth is particularly good. Kyle Connor is great. I like Mark Scheifele. I like Pierre-Luc Dubois.
That situation is about to blow up though with Pierre-Luc Dubois.
That's a question there. The question with whether I'm going to go over or under here is how far can Connor Hellebuck take them? I will say, I'm going to take a very, very, very slight under.
You're with me.
Like 87 points flat.
Alex?
Honestly, I forgot what team we're talking about because in the world of the goalie carousel, goalies in new places, guess who just gave up a goal on his first shot against?
Jack Campbell.
Yes, he did.
We're about to get to the Pacific, and that's going to be very timely. 87.5 for the Jets, Alex?
Under. I think that team's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's a...
Wait! It's 2-0!
Oh, no! The first two
Vancouver's
shots!
up 2-0!
The first two shots!
Shit! I might have to give in to my sister.
Oh, my
God.
God.
A hot take. That Vancouver, well, a take that I consider hot. That Vancouver is going to finish above Edmonton, but we'll get
2 goals on 3 shots.
I have 2 goals on 6 shots.
Well, 3 consecutive shots it must have been.
Maybe this feeds behind, but 2 of the first 3 shots of the game went in.
Bruins
all right,
crushed
Jake,
Washington.
We're about to move to the Pacific Division, and we're going to start with you. The Anaheim Ducks over-under is 80.5.
Over. I've got the Ducks over. I don't think they're quite ready to make the jump to being a playoff team, but I think the Ducks are building something that's pretty good. They've got a decent forward core, a young defense. John Gibson used to be one of the best goalies in the world. Unfortunately, I just don't think he's that trustworthy anymore. I'm obviously, just like everyone else, very high on Trevor Zegras, but he can't do it all alone.
No.
I really like Jamie Drysdale. He's not yet a true number one. I've always really liked Jakob Silfverberg. I think if a winger was ever to win the Selke again, it would be Mark Stone, but Silfverberg would be in that conversation too. Yeah, I'm taking the over on Anaheim. I don't think they make the playoffs. I don't think that's a particularly hot take, but over on 80 points.
What was the number again, TJ?
80.5.
I'm going to say a slight under.
I feel the under.
No respect for Wild Wing.
I feel the under pretty hard on this one. Not like 10 points under, but like I think this is a team that might just be like, yeah, let's get into the Bedard sweepstakes halfway through the season. I think that they do want to develop some of their young guys, but also I think that the new GM Pat Verbeek has shown a propensity to just throw away the guys at the deadline that he's not going to be able to keep, and not do like the Thomas Hertel extension kind of deals, like locking up a guy like that to maybe market value, but he's certainly not going to be an asset for you anymore when you're and your team is not good. Like I just don't know why San Jose did that, and I don't see Anaheim doing things like that. So Klingberg's gone at the deadline.
Yeah, that Klingberg signing reeked of, hey, let's pay him now and trade him for a haul at 50% retained at the deadline.
Yeah, maybe.
The Gibson volatility, though, is such that, like, if you told me Gibson carried this team to the second wild card spot, I would buy it, just because we know he has that in him.
Yeah,
I think,
and that's a big reason I'm taking the over on them. I know I said that Gibson's not trustworthy anymore, but like if he has a Gibson season, Anaheim might sneak into the playoff conversation. I don't think that will happen, but it also could. And either way, I'm feeling the over on Anaheim.
I think it's more likely that someone like Connor Hellebuck wills his team to a playoffs than John Gibson.
All right. Let me read off some more fan hot takes before we talk about this next team. At Medical Mewtwo, our friend Daniel, Calgary misses the playoffs. Hubie regression season. I can't say I agree with that, but I like the hot takery. And
we all know that is a troll of a hot take. Calgary is not missing the playoffs.
And the other Calgary hot take we got at Logan_724. The Flames make the playoffs and lose in round one due to a turnover by Mackenzie Weegar. The disrespect,
Logan,
man.
My friend, we asked for hot takes, not things we've already experienced.
Come on. I thought the contract was actually excellent value.
The first half of it is.
Well, yeah, but like
the second half, I guess by the second half of that contract, they probably no longer care as much about its value.
Yeah,
so.
That's true, but at the same time, like 6.25 is beyond a bargain.
Oh yeah, the AAV is great.
I thought Weegar was going to get somewhere in the 7 to 7.5 range to get 6.25. I mean, yes, you had to give him 8 years, and the concern
that's the sticking point for me.
And the other concern is, look, he is already someone who is not the most physically gifted person. When his foot speed declines even further, it's going to get ugly, like a la Brett Seabrook. So that's the main concern there.
I don't know if it'll ever be that bad.
No, it won't be that bad but I'm just saying, like, I don't think you're going to have a top 4 defenseman the last 2 to 3 years of that.
I think you will. I just think you go from having a number 2 to a number 4.
I mean, the last few years you might not have an NHL defenseman, but like I think in year 5, like for example, I think in year 5 he'll still be top 4.
I honestly kind of see Weegar aging more like Giordano.
Yeah.
He's still going to be good. Like, teams are still going to want him when he's old.
Yeah, but Giordano had much better athletic tools.
I guess.
Maybe Weegar's just like got
again, that's my concern with Mackenzie Weegar is he is an
Sorry, Mac, we still love you.
I love Mackenzie Weegar. And we stand him even after the mistakes in the playoffs. But
yes,
like
we did.
I was
going to bat so hard for him in May.
He is a cerebral,
or June, or whenever the hell the playoffs were.
he's a cerebral player. That's his game, and he makes up for his lack of athletic ability. As that athletic ability decreases, he's not going to be able to make up for it. Like, he already has an old man Wiley veteran game.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's Calgary's over on?
Their over-under is 103.5. I think this number's too low. I'm going to go over.
Way too low. Yeah, that's an easy over for me.
Over, and my hot take is that Calgary represents the West and wins the Cup.
Wow, that is a hot take. I think that I don't know if like the brand new team, like all the new pieces, is going to be good in the playoffs, but I think that in the regular season, you got guys that are going to be playing hard all 82. I think that Weegar and Huberdeau are going to have a real stick up their butt this year. They're going to feel really like doubted and slept on, and whatever other words that you want to use that like Michael Jordan would have felt in the Last Dance documentary. And they're going to have
Fuck them
huge
kids.
seasons.
One other hot take. I think Huberto wins the Art Ross and the Hart this year.
Whoa.
I was actually going to say similarly, like not that I think Uyghur will win the Norris, but if you see him over 50-1, hit that with a little bit of coin. I think there's a world that Uyghur wins the Norris this year.
Yeah,
I don't see it. I don't see either of those.
I don't know about the Norris.
And for the record, I'm gonna buy a Mackenzie Weegar Flames alternate with Blasty on it, like the black alternate with Blasty. Love
that's
that
gonna
jersey.
That's
gonna buy a Weegar.
That's gonna be real sexy.
What do you guys think of the rumors that Huberto is about to be named captain of Calgary?
He's not. They already shot those down. Sutter said they're not naming a captain.
Oh, okay.
Flames Twitter though, like one last thing. Flames Twitter, if you're listening to this,
if you're listening to this,
leave us alone. Like we don't care. We just said we think your team is really good.
Yeah.
Why do you care about what happens to us?
Real enemy is Twitter.
It's like we have nothing but nice things to say about Weegar and Huberto. Like we all want them to do well.
Want Kachuk to do better.
I would be yeah, I mean, well, naturally, because that's the guy you got in the trade, but it's not like it's not like when the Panthers traded Luongo to Vancouver and like there was just all this animosity. It's like, no, I hope you go to Vancouver and die over there. Like, no, like we all want Huberto and Weegar to do well.
Yeah. Whether or not we think they will is a different story, but we want them to.
I think they'll do well.
So
this
anyway,
year.
over.
I think they'll do well.
Calgary's
this year.
winning the Pacific.
Jacob, guess who just scored?
Trevor Zegras?
No, but it's the right game.
Jared McCann!
Yes, he did.
My man. Did Matty Beniers have anything to do with it?
Probably.
All I saw was the wrist shot.
I feel like they're not playing together. They're both centers.
All right, let's move on to the next team in the Pacific Division. Edmonton Oilers, 103.5 points.
He did. Beniers had the primary assist. Sorry.
Hold on. All right. Back to the Oilers. This for me is an easy under. I don't know if they're necessarily going to like crater. It's 103.5 for the Oilers. Easy under.
Ooh, yeah, that's a hard.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Like I thought it was 99.5 or something like that. The Oilers have never been a consistent regular season powerhouse with McDavid. They just haven't been that team. I think they have his best roster now, but like I'll believe it when I see it.
That's really not saying much.
It really isn't.
That's a team that housed Chris Russell for like 5 years of McDavid's career.
Their best defenseman is Brett Kulak. I think it's an under.
I think Darnell Nurse is not great, but like he's got to be a little bit better than Brett Kulak. At least I hope so, because 9.5 million. Jesus Christ.
I'm taking a pretty strong under on that. I've got Edmonton third in the Pacific because it's an extremely weak division. Mm-hmm. But I'm taking the under on 103.
I don't know if it's that weak this year. I actually kind of like this division this year. Here's a team I really like in this division. The Los Angeles Kings at 95.5 points. They took
what we need to do? You know what we need to do for our engagement, for something for our podcast, for our YouTube channel? We need a Mad Money style show with TJ just like running around a room saying stuff.
Buy Kings futures, huge over. I mean, this is a team that easily made the playoffs last year with significant injuries, and they couldn't score worth a damn. They go out and get Kevin Fiala. They're developing some good scorers. They got our boy Arthur Kaliev, who's a Dolphins fan. They got our boy Quentin Byfield, who's just a G, and he's going to be really good. And Kopitar's still that guy. And my boy, Philip Deneau, is still that motherfucking guy.
Fuck you.
He's our boy, I guess.
Yes.
But I love Phil Deneau. Like, he's such a dominant player, and people don't even realize it. Oh, yeah. They took it on the chin last night.
What's the number on LA?
95.5.
You know, I took the under on Edmonton at 103, and I've got LA finishing a little bit behind them. I think LA is a wild card team. I still like them, but I think they are a wild card team because I really like Calgary. I really like another team that we haven't gotten to yet. And I think Connor McDavid will will his team into a divisional spot. So I've got LA finishing that second wild card spot in the West. I will take a very slight under on LA.
Slight over for me.
I think it's a big over, but we'll see. They did.
Are we
take it-
keeping track of these somewhere? So
I'll listen back
can-
and I'll make a mark on all the
Okay.
teams.
Oh, that's right. Editing. It would be fun if we tracked like teams' pace and I don't know, maybe once a week put out an update on how we're doing on our
Ooh,
over-unders.
Jonathan Taves with a goal.
Ooh, he's still
Wow, that
alive.
hasn't happened in like 4 years.
I mean, it was a wide open net because Georgiev just hit hard on the shot. Like,
All right, this one will be quick. San Jose Sharks over under 75.5. Under.
Under.
over.
Under.
Why
This
do you
is
say over?
I don't know. I just have a feeling.
no, the Sharks are a lottery team. This team is garbage.
Yeah,
I
mean,
know I've
Brent Burns,
given a lot of shit to Arizona and Chicago. I think San Jose could finish bottom of the league, like
I
number
think
32.
I think they could finish 8th in this division, but I don't think they're going
They
to.
will finish 8th in this division.
Fair enough. They got some scrap, but I think a lot of it is going to get traded at the deadline because I think they're willing to blow it up here and get into the
They should be.
Bedard
They're
sweepstakes.
terrible.
Yeah. Next year, I think there will be some young guys that jump in and make them better. All right, this is a fun one. Seattle Kraken. Their over-under is 82.5. That's a lot of improvement, but I think that they're a lot better. I'm going to take a slight over here.
I mean, you're expecting Grubauer to at least not be one of the worst goalies in the world.
Yeah, he had the worst goalie season in a long time.
Yeah, and then Drieger was injured for almost the entire season.
And now he's injured again, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over here too. This is a team with a second line and 3 third lines. If
I
they're
don't know.
goaltending,
I think Matthew Beniers is ready. I
Sure.
really like him.
yeah, but I don't think Jared McCann is ready to center a first line. Is he
Maybe-
not their 1C right now? Like,
I think it's Matty Beniers.
really?
Yeah, I think so.
Right away?
Yeah.
I guess not exactly right. Well, right away as far as his NHL career.
I mean, and Shane Wright. I mean, at least he's getting 9 games. So
We'll see. I
we'll
hope
see.
I hope he hits the floor running.
yeah,
Oliver
I'm
Bjorkstrand.
taking the over here.
They got
Yeah, I
Bjork.
guess Beniers is their number 1C and McCann's playing a wing.
Alex,
and
did
they
you
got-
take the over? I forget.
Yeah, I like over here. They
That's-
added quite a bit. Remember, they got Bjorkstrand for
Bjorkstrand was the
essentially.
acquisition of
Yep.
the offseason.
Oliver Bjorkstrand is big for them.
Yep.
This is a team where, like, if everything goes right, also could be in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
The
I hope
odds of
so.
everything going right seem low, but like
Yeah, that defense, it seems like they got it wrong.
Dunn, Larson, Alexiak, Schultz. Yeah, I don't know. You know, these first 2 lines are real good. Beniers, McCann, Burakovsky, Wenberg, Schwartz, Bjorkstrand.
Yeah.
And then behind that is Yanni Gord, Shane Wright,
They're pretty
Brandon
deep.
Tanev, Brian Donato, Jordan Eberle, Jonas Donskoy, Daniel Sprong.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about
That
Brandon
is
Tanev,
not a
fourth
bad.
line.
That is I'm so confident in my they have a second line and 3 third lines. Like, I'm very confident in that.
Yeah.
I might even say they have 2 second lines and 2 third lines.
If they get a save, they might be decent this year.
That's the question mark. Is
All
the
right.
defense going to be good enough to support the goalies?
We're down to the final 2. We're going to start with the Vancouver Canucks. Their over under is 92.5. I got to take the under.
Under, just because I am a known Vancouver Canucks hater.
Sorry, Bruce. I do love Bruce Boudreau, but like I will believe competence in this era of the Vancouver Canucks when I see it.
Vancouver Canucks, after all of that, getting rid of arguably the worst general manager in the NHL. I know, RIP to 2 of the worst general managers in the NHL, Montreal and Vancouver. Like, they were just ripe for the picking with trades, and both those guys finally got fired. But like Vancouver, they finally cleaned house, and then they brought in guys who made the exact same mistakes, giving out bad contracts. Like JT Miller, even though he's got a goal tonight, like they way overpaid him, paying a 2nd-round pick to get rid of Jason Dixon. And you're only saving $1.3 million in cap, and you gave up a 2nd-round pick to do it. Like, what? Just what is this team doing? What is their direction? They're so in such cap hell, and they keep spending money. Like, they got to re-sign their captain and Bo Horvat. Like, what are they doing?
Cap implications don't matter for an over/under. I'm going to
No.
take a very slight over. I still think like they're first team out in the West, but I'm gonna take a slight over on them.
I think there's some pretty good value on them to miss the playoffs. Like I might have seen plus money on that, which like if you see plus money on Vancouver to miss the playoffs, take it. I'm not saying that there's no chance they make the playoffs, but like I certainly don't think they will. So if you see plus money on that, jump on it. And then the final team, the Vegas Golden Knights, their over/under is 96.5.
Over.
I like the over here. That's
an easy over.
My predictions came out last night, and the one thing that I regret, even though the Rangers made me look like a fool a little bit, the one thing that I feel like I should have seen coming is that Vegas looked awesome, and I had them behind the Oilers, and if I could do it again, I would switch those teams. Vegas over. They have too much high-end talent to not be good this year.
Jack Eichel's going to put up its insane numbers this year.
Yeah.
Mark Stone's healthy.
Stone's healthy. That's big.
Remember this guy, Jonathan Marchessault? He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Assuming their top line is Eichel, Stone, Marchessault, like that could be the best line in the NHL.
That's an extremely good line.
I think they might have those guys on separate lines. But, remember Phil Kessel also? Because he's here, and he's fun. And a good fit on this team, I think.
Old at this point, though.
Being the running mate for one of these guys, like if he's on Eichel's line, if he's on Stone's line, that's fun.
True.
He can set they can set him up. I was going to say he can set those guys up, but it's the other way around.
True. Yeah, no, this is an easy over. Rookie goalie Logan Thompson is going to be a big part of whether or not we are right, but he looked good enough against LA. And he's got to win.
I'll defer to Alex, but I really think that Logan Thompson is not going to be an issue for them. I think he's good.
I don't know enough about Logan Thompson, but I think goaltending is going to be a problem.
Yeah. Adin Hill, I definitely don't love.
Yeah.
But I do like Logan
But
Thompson.
they also have a good defense.
They do, yeah.
That can mask a lot of goaltending problems.
Shea Theodore
Thompson isn't good enough.
Shea Theodore was somebody Twitter loved to talk about for a while, and it stopped all of a sudden, and I don't know why. He's still very good.
He's still really good.
Yeah.
He doesn't put up points, but he doesn't need to because Alex Pietrangelo is also there and also good.
Fair.
So
all right.
I like Vegas here.
Yeah, I think Vegas is back in the playoffs pretty comfortably.
Speaking of the playoffs, let's do the Western Conference playoff picture before we get off of the playoff picture, over-unders, and all that.
Sure. Out of the Central, I've got Colorado, Minnesota, Nashville. Out of the Pacific, I've got Calgary, Vegas, Edmonton. Wild cards to Dallas and Los Angeles.
All right. I've got in the Central, Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota. Pacific, Calgary, Los Angeles, Edmonton. And I would change my prediction if it's allowed, but I did say Edmonton, not Vegas. And then wild cards, I have Vegas and Nashville.
In order, I'll go Colorado, Minnesota, and Nashville. Pacific, I'll go Flames, Oilers, Knights. Wild card, I'll go Kings, and fuck it, let's get crazy. Let's throw the Kraken in.
Yeah, I like it.
Dallas missing the playoffs. That's a take.
I think they're gonna struggle this year. I mean, Klingberg wasn't great for them, but like that defense is not very good. And I think Marchment turns back into a pumpkin.
Marchment was never a pumpkin.
He kind of was.
He's been very good at every level of hockey he's played.
I don't agree with that, but like I can see that the defense is a sticking point. Hopefully Thomas Harley's good because they could really use another guy. Let's talk about a few other things real quick. If you guys have any strong opinions on any trophies. Well, real quick, I want to say that this is the year, Sasha Barkov, if you want to win the Hart, this is the year.
I just don't think we get 82 games out of Barkov.
Yeah, that's
I
an
also
issue.
disagree. I think next year's the year that Barkov wins the Hart.
What do you guys think about first coach fired? This is one of the more interesting ones.
Lindy
to me.
Ruff.
I'm with Alex on Lindy Ruff.
Brunette's back behind the bench by New Year's.
Yep.
I think that'll happen this year, but I'm going to say DJ Smith is fired first. Because why is he still there?
Who's got higher expectations between Ottawa and the Devils? Probably Ottawa. So actually, I'm gonna pendulum over to TJ. I think DJ Smith is yeah.
Honorable mention Dave Hackstall, because I think there's a lot of buzz about him getting fired. I don't know if that's how impatient Seattle is, but whatever. Any other hot takes for the 2022-23 NHL season? Because I think we've talked about pretty much everything there is to talk about.
Holy shit. This just got tweeted out. The prices for Edmonton games. Guess how much a cheeseburger and a soda is?
I did see
For
this.
Canadian dollars or real dollars?
Remember, this is Canadian
That's
dollars.
true, Canadian dollars. This is true.
$35.
Yeah. 22 Canadian dollars for $22 Canadian dollars for a burger and a soda. But that's right, it is funny money, so it's not
That's
as
16
egregious.
US dollars.
I
pretty much.
apologize to our Canadian listeners. That was just a very easy joke to make.
It's the exchange rate though is pretty favorable to the US dollar at the moment. So if you're thinking about going overseas or just across the border to Canada, now would be a decent time because the dollar is worth more than the euro right now. How often has that been the case? That's what we're talking about at the end of this episode. But
Anyway, this has been Panther Puri Economics.
just one last thing to leave us on, because we didn't really talk about it, but we need people to remember Rudolph Balcers is going to be really good this year. He's going to be really, really good this year.
Yeah. Not quite like Carter Verhaeghe first season with the Panthers good, but like that kind of thing.
He's going to become a very useful complementary winger. I think he's the new Mason Marchment. I'm going to say it.
Okay.
I mean, I think Balcers is the addition other than Kachuk that everyone's like, oh yeah, this guy was the one that hit. Real quick, where do you guys all see the Panthers? Where does this season end for the Panthers?
First round, unfortunately.
I would agree, first round exit.
I think this is the third year in a row they're going to lose to Tampa in the first round or in the playoffs.
I think it'll be a first round exit, but we'll feel better about it than we did this year, especially considering knowing we're about to have a substantial amount of cap space and no one important to give a raise to.
Yeah, because Tampa is going to miss the playoffs when they finish 8th in the Atlantic. My first round matchup is Florida and Boston. And I think a fully healthy Boston takes Florida out in the first round.
Yeah.
And then a fully healthy Boston beats Toronto in the second round. And then loses to Carolina.
Toronto to win a playoff series. It just wouldn't be right.
Yeah, they got to
Yeah,
do it
but
first.
they're going to go up against Columbus. And I mean, that's a pretty easy call.
They blew a playoff series to Montreal.
That
was
brutal. That was
yeah,
brutal.
but that was Carey Price going God mode.
It doesn't matter. They still did it.
Elvis Merzlikins is not going to go God mode.
He might. Oh, I like Elvis.
Nor would anyone else who might finish in Wild Card 2 in the Eastern Conference.
All
Unless
right.
it's the Panthers.
I'm going to let you guys off the hook. Final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this episode.
Tampa 8th, Vassy washed.
Alex.
Yeah, I think Huberdeau's going to win. I think Huberdeau's going to have a very similar season to last year, but because now he's playing in Canada, he gets praised for it rather than shit on, and wins the Hart.
You can tell real quick. You can tell that he loves being like the most famous person in Calgary.
I mean, Huberdeau's a showman. Like, he enjoys attention. Like,
and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
No,
I'm not trying to say this as a
shot.
demeaning thing, but it's like it's clear that like he's lapping it up, and I do appreciate that.
Oh, he is absolutely like. I mean, since Yandel gave out the quote that he told Zito to F off, like, this is who Jonathan Huberdeau is, and he's going to play with a chip on his shoulder this year. Like,
Val Nichushkin goal alert.
Fantasy points. Rate us 5 stars on evolvingwild.com for
There you
validation. And with that, everybody, enjoy the 2022-23 NHL season. Let's go Panthers. What's better than this? We'll talk to you next week.